Today's Cowboys Report is made possible by Manscaped. Tell you more about them later on in today's show, but do know, if you forgot, you can get 20% off and free shipping when you use promo code COWBOYS over at manscaped.com. Let's begin with what kind of went viral last night on social media. Jimmy Johnson, he's back in the fold with an advisory board role for the Cowboys. Oh my goodness, he's back. He's going to be the GM. Let's dial it back a little bit here. We'll break down what Jimmy said, what Jimmy really meant, what was joking. And we'll talk some Tyron Smith, by the way, too, on today's show. If you want a second video before we dive in there on today, for the Cowboys Report, then share this one on social media. It also helps explain what Jimmy Johnson really meant. So share that while we break down what the quote was from Jimmy Johnson as part of an interview with a Miami radio station. Since the Ring of Honor, I am on his, meaning Jerry Jones's, advisory board now. We were talking on the phone about an hour after his Green Bay loss, and it's about all the things he needed to do. He had big decisions on Mike McCarthy, Dan Quinn, Dak Prescott. Everything's hunky-dory now. I am back in the fold with the Dallas Cowboys. That quote sounds juicy, right? I will link the audio itself in the description in the comments. I'm not going to play it because I don't want to get into copyright issues here. The audio of the clip itself versus the just straight transcribed quotes convey a very different meaning. There's always a story a weekish where you kind of need to listen to the interview itself and get the tone of the conversation. Jimmy's laughing the entire time. This is less of a, I have an official formal advisory board role, and more of a, I'm now back in the good graces, thank goodness, because things were kind of rough between me and Jerry for a long time. It's not a real position. There's no actual job title, not like the almost position Dan Reeves got a few years ago with Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. Think of this advisory board role as less of an actual job title and more of, we're talking again. I'm a sounding board again for Jerry in a way that I haven't been in a very long time. Back in the fold doesn't mean I'm back working a 9-to-5 with the Cowboys, and more of a, I'm back in the good graces of the organization. Jerry and I are no longer mad at each other. The relationship is in a much better spot now between Jerry and between Jimmy. That's what those quotes are. There can still be input and advice, and Jerry's done that over the years with other different, former coaches, execs, etc. And I think that's a good thing, and it's a very positive thing for the organization because having different voices can help you. Having a former, Hall of Fame executive / coach is a good thing. I'd also argue, hey, maybe get some young guys in there so it's not just people who have kind of phased out of the NFL. But I don't see any downside to this being the case. And I think it's also a good thing that the ego of Jerry getting pushed aside a little bit because that was a very big issue. So who do you give more credit to for that magical Cowboys dynasty run that I don't really remember because I was, one when it began or not even one when it began? A, for Jerry Jones. B, for Jimmy Johnson. It's the pinned comment on this video. If the ad comes on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there, A or B. I think we'll be voting Jimmy pretty heavily here. I would be a little surprised if there were a lot of Jerry Jones comments in there. But on this topic, because I know how this tends to go, no, we should not be advocating for Jimmy to come back as GM or having massive personnel say. He's been out of the actual game since 2000. And he has not coached in this league since this century began. You make no mistake, you miss peak 1990s and the prime Jimmy Johnson era. He was awesome, and he's still an impact. He helped invent the trade chart so many teams use these days. You don't want current 80-year-old Jimmy Johnson coming in and taking over when the games change incredibly drastically. That's not something you want for this organization. It's not going to be a good idea. And really, it's a bad idea. Having a sounding board, that's fine with me. Trying to get him back in place as GM or head coach, no, that's not a good idea at all. Now, what is a good idea is making sure you have the latest and greatest in the Manscaped products. The Lawnmower 5.0 is out, and there is no better men's grooming product out there for you. We've seen Jimmy Johnson's hair. Something tells me the other hair is also kept pretty properly by that guy. 20% off and free shipping when you use promo code COWBOYS over at manscaped.com. If you want the full grooming experience, not just the Lawnmower 5.0, look to Manscaped's Performance Package 5.0. In this grooming kit, you get the trusted lawnmower, Manscaped's ears and nose hair trimmer, and essential aftercare products, the Crop Soother, ball aftershave lotion, crop preserver, anti-chafing ball deodorant. Because, yeah, it's deodorant for your balls, and you do need that. As a gesture for the new year, they even threw in 2 free gifts for you. The Boxers 2.0, they are so comfortable. And the Shed 2.0 toiletry bag, because let's be honest, you're probably due for an upgrade there as well. Let's face it, resolutions can come and go for the new year, but a well-groomed you is here to stay, thanks to Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping on all their men's grooming products when you go to manscaped.com and you use promo code COWBOYS. Link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. Let's move then to Tyron Smith. The Dallas Morning News reports not only does Tyron Smith want to play, he wants to re-sign with the Dallas Cowboys. Here's the report from Calvin Watkins on Tyron Smith. The longest tenured player on the Cowboys wants to play another season with the team. A person familiar with his thinking told Dallas Morning News. Smith, 33, becomes an unrestricted free agent this spring, and there is uncertainty about a return. We'll break this down more in depth, but first, do you want to bring back Tyron Smith to this Cowboys roster for at least one more year? Y for yes, N for no. Sound off in the comments section. Now, I would like to bring Tyron Smith back. I think that's a solid outcome and plan for the Cowboys. I'm not sure this ends up being a guarantee, by the way. I would like it if it were to be, but I do think he has never reached free agency before. You know, there are injury concerns there. There's long-term planning concerns. You want to figure out what you're doing with Tyler Smith, by the way, which we'll get into. But a one-year deal does work for me. I think that obviously you're already taking some money with his contract voiding. You knew that going in. You can do a deal that makes the money work for, I think, all sides involved. Tyron is still a good football player. In fact, he's a very good football player. When he is healthy, he's still out there performing at a pretty high level among left tackles. I think the run blocking has begun to decline. I think some schematic issues in part to blame there as well, but he still holds up pretty darn well as a pass protector. That's valuable. You also know this, though. He's going to miss time. The games missed by season, 4, 13, 6, 14, 3, 3, 3, 3. He's not going to play every game. And we are probably past the point where you need to have a real viable alternative. And the issue you're going to run into is the investment level in a real viable alternative becomes a little bit cost prohibitive. And you need to figure out how can you balance having a backup who can start, knowing that a backup who can start is a starter for somebody else. Whether it's a draft pick or free agency investment, kind of got to spend decent amounts of money. And you want to figure out what you're doing with Tyler Smith. It would be my ideal path this offseason as well. So how many games will Tyron Smith play in 2024? It's probably not going to be all 17. Sound off in the comments section. I think you have one left side starter in Tyler Smith. But I'd also like to make a decision in an ideal world. Okay, where is he playing? Is he my left tackle? Is he my left guard? And if he's my left tackle long term, at a certain point, you got to kind of take the Band-Aid off and put him over there and figure out your left guard spot. And you could probably get by with some combination of Richards or Bass maybe on the left side, but I don't want to keep flipping Tyler Smith each offseason. I'd like to put him at a spot and keep him there. I'd like to bring back Tyron Smith on a cheaper one-year deal. But can I invest in both Tyron and a free agent? That becomes really tough to do. Some of the top starting caliber free agent options, there are some guards on here, and players like Michael and Wynn who can play tackle or guard. But Kevin Dotson, Jonah Williams, Trent Brown, those guys are probably going to command starting caliber money. Drenber might be better on the right side. Robert Hunt, Jonah Jackson, Damian Lewis could be guard options for you. Are they better than Tyron? Maybe you could argue Robert Hunt is approaching that figure. Josh Jones can kind of do some swing tackle stuff for you. You could add a guy like Jermaine Illuminor to be a better swing tackle for you, but is that going to really make you feel better than just drafting somebody? And that's also the issue here. We made a big deal about your first-round pick and second-round pick not making a big impact for you. Well, if Tyron's backing on this roster and you take a tackle to give yourself the depth you need, you're still kind of investing in he's going to start 5 games for us. Is that enough? And frankly, if you could get like Patrick Paul on day 2, I'm all for it because I can sit him for a season. I'm not opposed to Amarius Mims or Tyler Guyton in round 1 or even Kingsley in round 2 because it gives me some time to develop those players. And I can not have to start them in week 1, but maybe by the end of the season they've emerged as a starting caliber tackle, or I can just put them in there if and when Tyron Smith goes down. But I've got other needs too, center and or left guard or left tackle. I've got some guard options on there if you want to kick Tyler out to the left side. So it's not necessarily in like, oh, yes, you do it and you do this. Now, if you can spend at other positions and fill other needs, this becomes a very strong plan of attack. But I have to see the Cowboys actually do that before I get on board. So keep it kind of too long, didn't listen, I rambled too much. I would like to bring back Tyron Smith. I also want to do other things so I can have as many different needs filled before I get to the draft. So if there is a great left tackle or center or tackle option, I can draft them and not have to start them necessarily.